I'm Kelli Strickland. I'm the Executive and Artistic Director of the Weidner Center for the Performing Arts in Green Bay, Wisconsin. And right now we're sitting in beautiful Coffin Family Hall, which is sort of the crown jewel performance venue inside our facility. You know, both arts and culture, the arts and culture sector and the youth development sector are woefully under-resourced. And my experience throughout my career has always been that those two sectors in particular have mutual beneficial relationships. From the arts and culture perspective, we're investing in future audiences, and we are living up to our mission, which is more than just selling tickets. We have an obligation to share our arts and cultural resources with our community members, especially those who don't have as easy access to the programs that come through our building. I asked folks on my board and people in the university community who were good potential youth partners for the center. And I repeatedly heard, you've got to get over to the Boys and Girls Club and check out what's happening there with the Youth Arts Initiative. So I made that call. The leadership at the club was really gracious and toured me around the facilities, talked about the different arms of programming that were folded into the Youth Arts Initiative, and I immediately started thinking of ways that we could help bolster the arts and culture experience for those youth. We are very fortunate to be able to provide the Boys and Girls Club with blocks of tickets for our events. So we meet as soon as our season is announced, we go over the events that are occurring throughout the year, and the club identifies those programs that they think are suitable or might be of interest to the club kids and sometimes their families. We do everything that we can to remove barriers for those students and their families to participate in the activities here. So we're really lucky that the clubs can take care of transportation. That's a huge, huge, important barrier that has to be removed, just the getting here. Then we worked with our volunteer staff here. We have a volunteer force of 271 folks to provide box dinners for those participants so that we made sure they had an opportunity to get some nourishment between after-school club time and the show itself. And then the last thing we did is made sure that whenever we had the opportunity, we would bring the club kids backstage so they could sort of see the inner workings of what they were about to see on stage. And then the pièce de résistance is when we can actually give them access to the artists and the thought leaders that we bring to the center. So we've been able to offer private Q&As with the club kids, and given them the kind of access that is often restricted to major donors, frankly. The one resource that we have access to that the Youth Arts Initiative needs in order for the initiative to be successful is artists. So when possible, we arrange for the artists to make visits to the clubs. And that requires a little bit of planning in making sure that they can come in early, in the week to make those visits. We try to make sure that what the artist can offer the students is something that they actually need and want. And financially, if you think about what the small investment of adding on a visit to the club to what we're already paying for in the fee, it's a really, really reasonable way to extend the impact of that artist in our community. In this case, the poet Roger Bonair-Agard does all kinds of community engagement work. And the great thing about working with an artist like that is they already know how to be flexible.
You're about to write your life story in 24 words. not 23, not 25, exactly 24 words. That means, of course, that don't worry too much about full sentences, right? You want to go with the highlights. Don't even worry too much about connecting words, your conjunctions, your and, but, because, your prepositions like through, over, beyond. I'm coming to Green Bay, or to whatever the town is, with a band, which is a band of 4 men who have been educated in their particular crafts, wherever they've been educated, and more often than not, we're coming to those towns at the behest of some big institution that holds a sway in the town. In this case, University of Wisconsin at Green Bay. I come from a long line of teachers. I seem to have developed some facility for being able to do it. So there's no way I can come to a place like Green Bay and not seek out communities that need to have that kind of work done, that are looking to have that kind of work done with them as well. You all are taking still photographs and you're making videos, right? So there's a form of writing called ekphrastic poetry. ekphrastic, ekphrastic. That is work that is written off of another artistic form. So for instance, if you looked at this painting of the camera up on the wall and you decided to write a poem based on that, that would be an ekphrastic poem. Why they're excited coming here is that, first of all, this is not school, so the atmosphere that you all have created here is amazing. Those young people came into the room with a sense that it's more relaxed. Something different might happen here from what I'm accustomed to, even though they were even though they were saying to you, oh man, from beforehand, right? And so I was able to come in and say that this is what we're going to do, and get the kind of traction that one wants to get if one is coming in as a facilitator. Education, big E education, right, has killed many creative instincts of our young people, of our people, right? And very often when you bring somebody into an artistic milieu, then we have to have them unlearn some of the ways in which schools have taught them to put strictures on themselves. In no place is that more evident than in writing. When we learn to write, and we learn to write for school, they're learning that grammar has to be a particular thing. More often than not, they're learning that how they talk at home doesn't apply, can't work with what's happening there. They have to tell a story in a particular way. They have to write an essay in a particular way. By the time a child gets to about 12 or 13, they've either mastered these very narrow strictures of writing, or they've just given up on the whole thing, period. I'm interested in freedom. I'm interested in building a world in which young people, in which all people understand that they have the options to be something, to build a world other than the world that we've handed them, or that we're in the process of handing them. One of the ways I do that is because with Free Ride Arts and Literacy, we are working with criminalized young people to help create a world in which there'll be no more jails, there'll be no more prisons. To help create that world, you also have to work with young people who are not in jail and in prison. Not because you think they'll end up there, but those are the people who you have to start building an ideology that suggests that there's another way to run the world other than the way that has got us where we are now. And among the ideas is that among the things that I understand and we've understand that has failed us is locking people up. I'm a black poet, plain and simple. Black first. I do not know if I'm a poet before I'm a man or a man before I'm a poet, but I come from a people who have ways of telling such things. I come from a people whose history is inside history. Someday there'll be a great tale told of how 500 blackbirds fell out of the sky the day I discovered this. I live in an age of bodies declaring themselves to heaven. What young people need to understand is that I think all people need to know that how they talk, that where they live is worthy of reification in the world, is worthy of record and being told. And that is what creative writing, as I want to bring it to any group of young people, seeks to do, or old people for that matter, right? I want to hear about where you come from. I want to hear about how you say it in your kitchen when you're trying to convince somebody of it, when you're trying to make somebody laugh. I don't want to hear how they told you to put that sentence together in school. I know how to do that, right? I want to hear if you are Hmong, if you are Puerto Rican, if you are from Mississippi, if your grandmother came from Mississippi and your grandfather came from Alabama, and they have this story, and because of that, this was a thing that happened, and because of that, you all cook this thing this particular way, and because of that, you pronounce cornbread different from even other people on your block. I want to hear how you pronounce cornbread when you write that piece.
This beautiful chaos is captivating in multiple ways. I wanted to stay here and explore everything there was to offer, every mystery and climate there was here. But how long would it take for me to change with it?
Nice. Yeah.